Everyone. So I want to talk about something different. I said I would talk about this eventually, and I kept putting it off and putting it off and off and off and off. And I know it might sound like a Westport here, to be totally honest with you. But I just want to talk because we done this in our leaving cert the last year. We had to do a study of a film and we watched the film and we had to study it and things like that. And I have to say it was a very very interesting film. Actually, one of the best films I've ever seen. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I like history and things like that. It's the King's Speech. It released in 2016, I believe, as far as I remember. But the King's Speech, and you might be like, "What's the King's Speech?" It's a really really good movie, and I do suggest you watch it. It's an hour long. It's an hour or so long. It basically takes place in World War One, World War Two, excuse me, but so basically what it is, it's to do with King George the Sixth, which King George the Sixth Queen Elizabeth's father, the Queen, the monarch of the United Kingdom at the moment, her father during the Second World War, and his stutter, King George the Sixth had a stutter, and I never knew that, and I never knew that until I watched the film. I never knew that the king, her father suffered with a stutter, a very bad stutter, he was very bad at public speaking, very nervous type. Bertie, as they call him, Bertie. And it covers too about Edward. Edward was the king. He was in King of England for a few months, and then he abdicated in favour of marrying an American, the 4C, Wallace Simpson, which he was two times divorced. And obviously, as King of England, or Queen, you're head of the Church of England, you can't be divorced. Um, that's the rules, and obviously had to abdicate, either choose a woman over the throne, and he chose Wallace. And basically that was his brother, and obviously King George, was the fifth or fourth. The king during King whatever again there's loads of Georges and things like that, but his father, basically King George the Sixth father, was a very abusive man, and obviously he wasn't a good king. But yeah, anyway, that's just a bit of backstory of it. But again, I suggest you watch it. It's very, very good. It is really, really, truly good. And I don't know why. Maybe because I kind of stutter a bit. To be totally honest, I'm not as bad as King George the Sixth. But it's kind of good to see. And I suppose the reason why I like it too was it was obviously history based too. And the other thing was, it's very, very, in my opinion, it's very, very wholesome kind of thing. For a king, we often think of a king as high and mighty and X, Y, and Z. Um, but this is the thing, and I explain it too, that he never wanted to be king, and it kind of was forced upon him, and nobody ever thought he would be king, because obviously King Edward was a liar. King Edward, puts Edward, it was alive, and obviously he should have been probably king, and obviously he was Nazi sympathized and everything like that, which is not a good thing for when you're leading up to war. But again, he never thought to be king and everything, and when people probably look down upon Bertie, or we'll call him Bertie, and probably said with his stuff and things that he wouldn't be king and everything like that. And again, he did become king, and it's interesting, especially when he was being coronated. And now the Queen's mother, that was his wife, Queen Elizabeth, and AKA the Queen's mother. So again, during the coronation, it's on YouTube and things like that. But during the coronation, when they're being crowned in Westminster Abbey, the poor Archbishop, was very frustrated, and obviously everything was worked to a T on what the king would say and everything like that. And the other part I missed there, and again I know I'm all over the place, but again it's not really sorted out. It's just everything that I want to talk about. Because again, putting it in the script or something like that, it's not. I want to say it. What I take straight out. But again, talk about his speech therapist now, Lyle Weeds, which is weird, which really happened. He had speech therapy from an Australian, and obviously he helped him with his speech and helped him, and he was good friends with him throughout his whole life. And I suppose in a way, and again going back to why I like it, is that he wasn't expected to be king, and the next bit really just sees the deal on how he was a good king, and we have to be admit he was a good king, um, especially because wartime was coming, World War II came along, and obviously a king is very vital, and obviously he had to deliver the speech, announcing to the Dominions. Okay, because again, remember, it wasn't the United Kingdom; it was all the Dominions: the British, Far East, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, many other colonies across the world. That they were at war and everything like that. And again, this King's speech is a real speech that was delivered on the outbreak of war in 1939. Whenever the 3rd of September, wasn't it? 1939, the British declared war along with the French on the Nazi Reich. So yeah, again, he delivered the speech to the nation, obviously to the British dominions and everything like that. And obviously that's a very hard thing to do when you have a stutter and you're very bad at public speaking and things like that. But it's not just that too. Like throughout the war, there's videos of and things like that. The King and Queen stayed in London. They didn't leave London, even during the Battle of Britain when London was being bombed. We stayed in London. We stayed with these people. And then again, that's very, that says more. That really truly does say more. That the King is. There's a song on YouTube and there's a song that was made up during that time. The King is still in London. And again, it just goes to show you that he was loyal to his people. And that he wasn't going to leave. He was going to stay in London if London, as the song says, if London Bridge was falling down. Which really is true, and especially because Buckingham Palace was bombed many times throughout the war. And at one stage, the King and Queen, this is in real life, but at one stage, King George Bertie and his wife, obviously Queen Elizabeth, were knocked to the ground, and obviously young Queen Elizabeth, that's the monarch now, was obviously in the army and was a mechanic too. But it really just shows how he's stayed with the people. And again, I can't even mention about he was nearly out every day along with Queen Elizabeth. Again, I looked in deep into this history, but he was out every day visiting people who were bombed, people who were homeless. He was out every day, visiting people. Being there, raising morale. Talking to people. Being with these people, and condoling them, helping them. And that's something that not many leaders, let's be honest, that can really just shine. Even in the darkest hours of that, in the war, that again, that's something that's very rare to see. And it just really just shows that he was a good king. And again, I know Westbrook 2.0, but we have to do admit that he was a good king. He really was a good king. And again, I don't know about this year, but it was last year in the Leaving Cert we were doing. So I do suggest it is really, really an interesting film. It is really, truly an interesting film. I do enjoy it. But yeah, it's a lot of, especially because there's loads of historical context behind it. And I suppose the end of the story really just goes to show you that not all people who seem who can't be great, because again, at the end of the day, the end of the story really says that anybody can be great if you believe in yourself and you put effort into it. Again, he put a lot of effort. He was nearly every day with Lyle Reed's speech therapist. He was nearly every day working on his speech and working on how to speak publicly and things like that. And that's dedication. That's truly dedication right there, that he wanted to be the best he could for his people. And that's dedication. That's something that maybe some of the politicians in Dáil Éireann would like to take a leaf out of him. But again, you have to say that he was more better than any of the politicians in this country at the moment. Anyway, who actually cared about things. But again, politicians in this country couldn't care less. But yeah, it's a good film. I do suggest you watch it if you have it tomorrow or any time. I do suggest you watch it. I just wanted to make it because it is a really good film. I really do enjoy it. It does really, again, it just kind of shows you that anything's possible, that you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. And that people might judge you and say, oh, you're never going to be this, that, but, you can rise above it. And I think that's just a perfect story to say. So yeah, take care, everybody.